I was dying. My consciousness drifted in an endless, suffocating darkness, flickering like a candle in the wind. Looking at myself, I wasn't even human anymore. I was just a puddle of pitch-black slime, slowly evaporating and losing energy. Back on Earth, I was just another 996 office drone, slaving away until I collapsed. I woke up to find I'd reincarnated as a symbiote, basically Venom, but in my most primitive, larval state. In this form, if I didn't find a host, I'd vanish. I'd imagine bonding with someone like Spider-Man and rising to the top of the world. Instead, I was trapped in this void where there wasn't even a single bacterium to cling to, let alone a hero. Was the whole point of my transmigration just to die as a puddle of goo? I wanted to scream, but my voice was nothing more than a tremor in my mind. Just as I felt my soul fading for good, a faint glow pierced the dark. It grew rapidly, outlining a blurry human figure. A person. My survival instinct kicked in. I didn't care who or what it was. If it was alive, I could parasite it. On the other side of the void, in the center of an awakening formation at Blue City High School, Yi Qinghan stood with a cold, focused expression. She was a regressor. In her past life, she had been a powerful Earth-rank master, and now she was back at the moment that would decide her fate. As the formation flared with light, her spirit was pulled into the vast spirit realm. She moved like a streak of light, ignoring the countless spirit shadows drifting past. She knew exactly what she wanted. Using her memories from her past life, she flew straight toward a region where the energy was most violent. This was where the S-class spirits appeared. She released her summoning power, and the entire dimension shuddered. A deafening dragon roar echoed from the depths. A massive creature broke through the spatial turbulence, the ancient frost dragon. It was a legendary SSS-class spirit she had only ever seen in ancient texts. Its scales were like jagged ice, and its eyes burned like blue suns. Yi Qinghan's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The dragon drew closer, 100 meters, 50, 10. The sheer pressure nearly crushed her spirit, but she reached out, ready to sign the god-tier contract that would change her life forever. That's when I saw it. A massive dragon. The spiritual fluctuations were insane. This was the ultimate host. I didn't care how terrifying it looked. I was evaporating. I had to jump. I launched myself from the void like a black bullet, aiming straight for the dragon's head. At that exact moment, Yi Qinghan's contract array expanded. It didn't hit the dragon. It hit me. The array shrank instantly. A mechanical voice rang in my head. Ding. Host successfully contracted a regressor. Infinite Devour system activated. Starter gift pack issued. I felt a surge of power. I gained soul independence, meaning I wouldn't lose energy without a host anymore. I got the core ability, Infinite Devour, and weakness removal. No more dying from fire or high-frequency sounds. But there was a catch. Because of the contract, I was now bound to the summoner. I was stunned. I wanted the dragon, not the girl. But a system was better than nothing. Infinite Devour sounded broken, and with my weaknesses gone, I was basically an immortal version of Venom. Plus, the system said she was a regressor. That was a huge win. The next second, I was pulled back to reality. In the awakening room, the light faded. Yi Qinghan stood frozen. There was no world-ending frost dragon in front of her. Instead, there was just a fist-sized puddle of black slime bouncing happily on the floor. Her breath hitched. She had gambled everything for this moment, and she ended up with a black slime? A creature so low-level it didn't even have a rank? The gap between her expectations and reality hit her like a tidal wave of ice. My SSS-class frost dragon, gone, she whispered. A single tear tracked down her pale face. Seeing this beautiful woman crying her eyes out made me panic. I tried to tell her, don't cry. I'm an SSR tier. I just look like a basic mob. Trust me. But our mental link was too weak. My desperate thoughts were filtered through the contract until she only perceived one distorted word. Cry. Yi Qinghan swayed, her heart breaking further. She looked at me with pure disgust. Get away from me. You're slimy and disgusting. I felt a sting of hurt. I didn't mean to steal her dragon, but I would have died if I hadn't. I had to prove my worth. I was a symbiote. I was way better than some overgrown lizard. I decided to show her our main selling point. Fusion. I tensed my rubbery body and launched myself at her long, slender legs. I imagined the epic scene where we'd fuse, power would explode from her, and we'd shock the entire world. But as I flew through the air, Yi Qinghan's brows knit together. She didn't see a partner. She saw a gross black blob attacking her. "Get lost," she snapped. A pulse of spiritual energy formed a barrier. I slammed into it like an invisible brick wall and went tumbling across the floor. "Slimy and revolting," she muttered, her voice cold enough to make me shiver. I was speechless. I was trying to give her a literal cheat code, and she was treating me like trash. I got desperate, sending the same thought over and over through the link. "Fuse, fuse, fuse." Yi Qinghan frowned. To her, the message was even more garbled now. I made some weird, wet clicking sounds. I was trying to communicate, but to Yi Qinghan, it probably sounded like a broken radiator. "Eh," she whispered. "Do you want water?" She stared down at me, a motionless puddle of black slime on the floor. After a moment of silence, she reached into her tactical bag and pulled out a pink water bottle. She unscrewed the cap. Splash! A stream of clear water cascaded down, soaking me completely. "If you want a drink, just stay still," she said, her voice flat and cold. I sat there, drenched and utterly stunned. "Drink? Drink what?" I was trying to say fusion, not hydration. Was she deaf? My mind was screaming in frustration, but my body had a mind of its own. The water actually felt amazing. My rubbery skin absorbed it greedily. A notification popped up in my vision. Asterisk consuming pure water. Devour points plus 0.0001. Asterisk. I felt a twitch of annoyance. Why even bother with such a tiny amount? Yi Qinghan watched me soak up the liquid, her eyes narrowing in thought. This black slime wasn't in any of the federal spirit manuals. Maybe it was an undiscovered mutation? Maybe it actually had a hidden talent? She knelt down, her cold gaze scanning my blobby form. She muttered. "What can you actually do?" This was it. My big chance. I learned my lesson this time. I concentrated every ounce of my mental energy on one single concept. Fusion. I pushed the thought through our link with everything I had. Yi Qinghan's brow furrowed. The message she received was a little clearer this time. Instead of one "heh," she got two. "Heh heh." Her face darkened. Her voice turned sharp. "Stop thinking about drinking. Show me your abilities." I wanted to give up. I was exhausted. Was this soul contract bought on a discount app? The signal was worse than 2G. Communication was a total failure. I decided to go into power-saving mode and just lay there on the floor like a piece of discarded gum. Seeing me go limp, Yi Qinghan's expression softened slightly. She sighed. It was just a slime, after all. Low intelligence was to be expected. She couldn't hold it to human standards. "Fine," she sighed, pouring the rest of the bottle over me. "Drink up. Drink your fill." Asterisk devour points plus 0.0001. Devour points plus 0.0001. Asterisk. I felt dead inside. Whatever. If she wouldn't fuse with me, I'd just have to evolve on my own. I had a system. I didn't need a partner to survive. I just needed to eat. I'd grow so big and strong that she'd regret ever looking down on me. "I want to eat," I projected. "Something with energy." This time, she actually understood. "Eat, eat, eat," she grumbled, looking like she wanted to squash me. "All you do is eat and drink." She held back the urge to crush me under her boot. Killing a contracted spirit would damage her soul C and stop her cultivation for years. It wasn't worth the setback. "I'll take you to eat later," she said, picking up her backpack and zipping it open. "First, we go to the appraisal room to register." "Get in." She was testing my intelligence. I saw an opening. This was my last shot. If I jumped onto her and let her feel that I wasn't a threat, maybe, just maybe, the fusion would trigger. I tensed my body and launched myself in a perfect arc toward her thigh. But Yi Qinghan was a former empress. Her reflexes were terrifying. The second I left the ground, she stepped aside and swiped her hand. Bang! An invisible wave of spiritual energy sent me flying. I slammed into the wall of the awakening room and slid down, leaving a long, black streak of slime behind me. "Try that again," she warned, her voice icy. "And I won't be so gentle." She already hated how slimy I was. My constant attempts to stick to her were pushing her to the limit. I decided to behave. This woman was way too dangerous. Fine, no fusion for now. Just wait until I evolve into my final form. Then she'd be the one begging to fuse with me. I grumbled internally and hopped into the open backpack. She zipped it shut, leaving only a tiny crack for air. She took a deep breath, smoothing out her anger, and pushed open the heavy doors of the awakening room. A crowd of students was waiting outside. Qinghan, how did it go? What kind of spirit did you get? It's got to be something amazing. A group of girls she was friendly with crowded around, their faces full of excitement. Yi Qinghan was the star of the school. Everyone expected her to contract a legendary beast and soar to the top of the rankings. I saw her eyes flicker with a hidden pain, but she just shook her head. You'll see at the appraisal room, she said quietly. She started walking toward the other end of the building where every new spirit master had to go to officially rank their partner. The crowd followed, eager to witness her success. Inside the bag, I watched the world through the zipper crack. Yi Qinghan looked stoic, but I could tell she was clinging to a tiny shred of hope. She had heard stories of low-level spirits that were actually hidden gods in disguise. She was praying I was one of those. As we walked, a loud, arrogant voice cut through the chatter. Well, if it isn't our civilian goddess, Yi Qinghan. Done already. A guy named Wang Tung stepped out, flanked by a group of rich lackeys. He was from one of the city's big 3 families. Let me guess, he sneered. With your luck, you probably ended up with some bottom-tier trash, didn't you? A flaming bird perched on Wang Tung's shoulder, radiating waves of intense heat. It was a flame sparrow, a B-rank spirit. The crowd whispered in awe, but Yi Qinghan didn't give them a second glance. She ignored the chatter and walked straight toward the appraisal room. Inside her backpack, I could feel her anxiety. Her emotions were fluctuating wildly, a reflection of the insults being hurled by the students around us. I wanted to roll my eyes. These mortals had no idea who they were dealing with. I wiggled my body inside the bag, feeling a surge of pride. I was an SSR rank entity. Soon, we reached the appraisal office. The room was packed. A massive holographic screen flickered constantly, displaying the results of the newly contracted spirits. Li Ming, Flame Lizard, Grade E Ability, Fireball. Zhang Li, Gale Eagle, Grade D, Ability, Wind Strike. Wang Hao, Earth Bear, Grade C, Ability, Earth Guard. Each student whose name was called stepped up with pride, showing off their partners to the cheers and gasps of the crowd. Finally, it was Yi Qinghan's turn. She took a deep breath and unzipped the bag. I didn't wait. I sprang out of the backpack and landed firmly on the appraisal table. I tensed my body, trying my best to look majestic and powerful. But to the audience, I was just a puddle of black, bouncy, non-threatening goo. Wang Tung and his lackeys crowded around, craning their necks to see. When they saw me sitting there, a moment of stunned silence was followed by an explosion of laughter. What is that? A clump of mud. Wang Tung roared, clutching his stomach. A slime? And it's black? Since when do slimes count as spirits? Yi Qinghan is so talented, someone whispered. How could she contract something like this? Her career is over. Even my F-rank horned rabbit looks more intimidating than that thing, another student mocked. Wang Tung's laughter was so hard, he nearly teared up. Yi Qinghan, you really gave us a surprise. You spent your entire family fortune on a piece of F-rank trash. The appraisal teacher looked stunned too. He activated the scanning array, and a beam of light swept over my body. Cold text immediately popped up on the data screen. Spirit name, unknown, slime variant. Grade, F. Attribute, none. Abilities, none. Evaluation, extremely weak. No growth value. Trash. It was lower than the lowest F rank. The teacher looked at Yi Qinghan with a flicker of genuine pity. The room erupted. The mockery became a deafening roar of spiteful joy. Wang Tung stepped forward, looking down at her with a sneer. See? This is reality, he said. A genius with no resources is nothing. You're the biggest joke in Blue City High. Yi Qinghan's face turned pale. This was the final straw. She stood there, frozen, as the world seemed to fade away. All that remained was that glaring F on the screen and Wang Tung's hateful face. She slowly clenched her fists. Her pride as an empress was being crushed by this pathetic reality. An F? Are you kidding me? I'm Venom. I'm an SSR. Is this machine broken? I tried to release a powerful aura, but my physical form was too weak to project anything. Wang Ting saw her expression and put on a mask of fake concern. Tell you what, Qinghan, why don't you sell that slime to me? I can't use it, but my flame sparrow might like it as a snack. For old time's sake, I'll give you 100 credits. He pulled out a credit card with an expression of pure charity. Yi Qinghan snapped. She looked up, her eyes like ice picks stabbing into him. Get out, she hissed. I don't need any spirit. Even without one, I will trample everything in my path. She turned on her heel and stormed out, leaving the room in dead silence. She actually left. She vanished through the door, leaving me behind. After a moment of shock, the room exploded into even louder laughter. The genius ran away. She was actually driven off by her own spirit. Wang Ting couldn't stop laughing. He pointed at me, still sitting on the cold table. Look at this. Even its master doesn't want it. Abandoned at birth. How pathetic. I lay there, feeling the hostile glares, and started to panic. Hey, wait. Is this a joke? That crazy woman actually left me here? I'm your only spirit. If I die, your soul is going to take a massive hit. I tried to move, but I was so weak I could only wiggle uselessly. The teacher frowned at Wang Tung. Student Wang, stop shouting. The containment box? That was basically a pound for stray spirits. I felt a surge of indignation. If they tried to lock me up, I'd eat the whole box. Wang Tang's eyes glinted with malice. Teacher, why bother? He walked to the table and reached out a finger to poke me. This thing is useless. Why not just dispose of it? Or let my flame sparrow have a little treat? The bird on his shoulder let out a sharp cry, its red eyes full of greed. I felt a wave of heat, the pressure of a B-rank spirit. I realized I was about to be eaten. Then I remembered, I'm Venom. If this bird put me in its stomach, I'd show it what cruel really meant. Just as Wang Teng's finger was about to touch me, the doors slammed open. Yi Qinghan was back. Her icy gaze swept the room and locked onto Wang Teng's hand. Take your filthy hand off him, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. She had clearly realized she'd forgotten me in her anger and rushed back. Wang Teng froze, looking surprised. Oh, the genius returns? Can't bear to leave your F-rank treasure. Yi Qinghan ignored him. She walked straight to the table and stepped between me and Wang Teng, shielding me with her body. She looked down at me, then back at him. No matter how useless he is, she said coldly, he is still mine. It's not your turn to tell me what to do, Yi Qinghan said. Hearing those words, I felt a small spark of respect for her. This woman was fierce, sure, but she actually had a backbone. She wasn't going to let Wang Ting bully her or me. She opened her backpack and looked at me on the appraisal table. Get in, she commanded. We're leaving. I'd learned my lesson. I knew she didn't like me touching her skin or jumping on her shoulder. I gathered my strength and, thwack asterisk, I launched myself perfectly into the open backpack. Wang Tung burst out laughing. Haha, what a well-behaved little pet. Yi Qinghan, why even bother being a spirit master? You should just become a pet trainer. You might actually have a future there. Yi Qinghan zipped the bag shut, shielding me behind her back. She turned and fixed Wang Tung with a gaze so cold it could have frozen fire. Wang Tung, she said softly, you'd better remember every single word you said today. Because one day, I'm going to make you crawl back and swallow them, one by one. She didn't wait for a reply. She ignored the mocking laughter and the sympathetic looks from the crowd. She just walked out of the appraisal room without looking back. We moved fast. She hurried out of the school gates and headed straight home. Once inside, she tossed the backpack onto the table and sat on the edge of her bed, staring out at the gray, overcast sky. She was deep in thought. An F-rank spirit. I knew what she was thinking. This was 100 times worse than the worst-case scenario she had imagined. The National Spirit Master College entrance exam was only a month away. At this rate, she wouldn't just miss out on the top universities, she wouldn't even make it into a bottom-tier trade school. If the spirit is useless, then I'll do it myself, she whispered. She was talking about strengthening her own body. In her past life, this was considered a dead-end path. It required a terrifying amount of resources and sheer willpower. Most people believe that a physical cultivator's limit was far below that of a top-tier spirit master. Reaching the rank of king was the ceiling. Becoming a physical emperor was just a myth. But she knew a technique. It was famous in her past life, the god-devil suppressing physique. According to the legends, at its peak, a cultivator could challenge gods with their bare hands and shatter stars with a punch. In her previous life, she was already at the pinnacle of spirit mastery, so she hadn't cared for it. Now, it was her only hope. To start the god-devil suppressing physique, I need to soak my body in the blood of a tier 1 beast, she murmured to herself. If I can just get past the first stage, my strength will skyrocket. I can reach tier 1 before the exam. Even without a spirit, I can get into a good school with raw physical power. Inside the backpack, I was losing my mind. Lady, calm down. Is that technique even for humans? It's painful, exhausting, and has no future. You have a literal god-tier cheat code sitting right here in your bag, and you want to go take the hard road? If we just merged, we could dominate everyone. She didn't need to carry this burden alone. I wanted to jump out and grab her leg, to beg her to be rational, but I knew if I did, I'd just get slapped across the room again. Communication was impossible. I felt completely powerless. Yi Qinghan didn't waste time. She dragged a box from under her bed containing a few low-grade spirit stones. Then, she changed into a black combat suit from her closet and tied her hair back into a sharp ponytail. She picked up the backpack and looked at me. "Stay in there," she said coldly. "Don't move." As she headed out, I caught a glimpse of her determined profile through the zipper gap. I sighed. Fine. If she wanted to push herself, let her. Physical cultivation required beast blood, which meant going outside the city. Outside the city meant monsters. I'd scavenge the corpses, rack up some devour points, and grow stronger. Once I evolved, I'd show her exactly what she was dealing with. She stopped at a general store to buy compressed rations, water, rope, and a dagger. Then, she walked straight toward the massive walls at the edge of Blue City. Outside the walls, the world was a nightmare. A thick, gray fog covered everything, cutting visibility down to less than 10 meters. Eerie howls echoed in the distance. This was the Mist Zone, a forbidden land for humans and a paradise for monsters. Humans were trapped in giant cities protected by purification towers. Even inside the bag, I felt the oppressive atmosphere. My body instinctively shrunk back. Man, is this the outside? It felt like the very air was toxic. I was just glad I was a symbiote. I had a natural resistance to stuff like this. Yi Qinghan didn't rush in blindly. She skirted the edge of the mist and found a hidden pile of rocks to hide in. Tier 1 blood-spotted hounds usually hunt here, she whispered. Their strength is average. I just need to find one alone. She waited, her patience absolute. Finally, a lone blood-spotted hound appeared. It was limping, already injured. Perfect, she breathed. She moved like a ghost, suppressing her breath and circling behind the beast. The hound didn't notice a thing. In a flash, she lunged from the shadows, her dagger gleaming. The hound heard the wind and spun around, snarling, claws bared. But because of its injury, it was a fraction of a second too slow. Yi Qinghan dodged the strike and slashed the dagger across its throat. One hit. One kill. The hound collapsed, twitching for a moment before going still. My eyes widened inside the bag. Holy crap, that was clean. This woman was a total savage. She dragged the carcass into a dry, secluded cave. She drained the beast's blood into a hollow in the ground, forming a dark pool. Then, she began to strip off her combat suit. Through the gap in the bag, I saw everything. Her body was lean but packed with hidden power, her skin glowing pale in the dim light. My liquid body practically started boiling. Whoa, look away, look away. But man, she was in incredible shape. Yi Qinghan didn't care about the bag. She took a deep breath and stepped into the pool of blood. She sat down cross-legged and closed her eyes, beginning the god-devil technique to draw the essence into her bones. Her skin began to turn an eerie shade of red. This was my chance. She was deep in meditation. She wouldn't notice me. If I could just merge with her now, she'd see the power I offered. I hopped out of the backpack, thump, and turned into a black shadow, racing toward her leg. They were cold as ice. Without a second thought, she swung her hand in a brutal backhand. Bam! A massive force slammed into me, sending me flying across the cave. I crashed against the stone wall and slid down like a puddle of mud. Yi Qinghan stared at me, her eyes burning with rage. Didn't I tell you not to move? She looked like she wanted to slap me into non-existence. Her meditation had been at a critical point, and my sudden jump nearly caused her technique to fail. I felt indignant. I was only trying to help. I tried to project my thoughts to her, pleading my case. Help me. She let out a cold, mocking laugh. Besides eating, what else are you good for? She closed her eyes again, ignoring me to focus on her cultivation. I felt stuck. I looked over at the hound's carcass nearby. It was already starting to rot, giving off a foul stench. An idea struck me. Since she wouldn't let me merge with her, I'd make myself useful by cleaning up the trash. I crawled over to the dead beast and sank my teeth into its leg. A notification pinged in my head. Devourable energy detected. Level 1 mutant beast. Devour? Yes, I shouted internally. The change was instant. The hound was dozens of times larger than me, but its body began to wither at a visible speed. I sucked out every drop of flesh and blood essence. Ding. Devoured level 1 blood-spotted hound. Gained 10 devour points. Ding. Host level up. Current level 1.5. Ding. New ability unlocked. Skill steal. Ding. Successfully stole skill. Bite. Grade F. Asterisk. I wanted to jump for joy. I'd leveled up and stolen a skill. I felt a surge of strength. My body wasn't a floppy puddle anymore. It felt elastic, firm, and textured. The commotion caught Yi Qinghan's attention. She opened her eyes and froze. The hound was gone. Only a dry skin and a pile of white bones remained. You can devour corpses? She asked, stunned. I wobbled my body proudly, sending back a simple thought. Eat. Her face went dark again. She realized that my only talent as an F-grade slime was being a literal garbage disposal. But then, she went silent. She was thinking. In the mist zone, the greatest danger wasn't the beasts themselves, it was the smell of blood. A single kill could attract 100 more monsters. Every hunting team had to spend a fortune on expensive purifying potions or burning tools to clean up crime scenes. Now, she had a mobile, automatic, zero-cost processor. I saw a flicker of something in her cold eyes. Not entirely useless, she muttered. A trash processor. I didn't care about the label. I was busy basking in my own glory. I tried to tell her how amazing I was and that she should give me all the good food. She couldn't understand my complex thoughts, but she got the gist. I was showing off. She stood up and reached out a single finger toward me. My heart raced. This was it. The perfect chance to merge and take control. I leaped toward her pale, slender finger. Bam! A spiritual energy shield flickered around her finger, bouncing me away like a rubber ball. Don't move, she frowned. Damn it. This energy shield was annoying. I was still too weak to break through it. She poked me gently, then touched the spot where the hound had been. She sniffed her fingers. No smell. It was perfectly clean. What are you doing? I screamed internally. Asterisk, am I a rag to you? You just use me and throw me away? Asterisk. She ignored my mental tantrum and walked to the cave entrance. The mist was getting thicker. She pulled out her last few low-grade spirit stones. She had planned to save these for her exams, but she had no choice now. A strange thought crossed her mind. If I could devour beasts, could I devour spirit stones? And what would happen if I did? She tossed a blue, glowing crystal toward me. Eat it. Let's see what else you can do. The stone rolled to my feet, radiating pure energy. It smelled incredible, 100 times better than that rotting dog. I couldn't believe it. Spirit stones were the hard currency of this world, and this vicious woman was actually sharing? Maybe she wasn't so bad after all. I wrapped my liquid body around the stone. Asterisk ding. High purity energy detected. Devour. Asterisk. Asterisk do it. Now. Asterisk. A massive flood of warm energy rushed through me. It felt like a starving man hitting a 5-star buffet. Asterisk ding. Devoured low-grade spirit stone. Gained 50 devour points. Asterisk. Ding. Asterisk ding. System updated. New ability unlocked. Energy feedback. Grade A. Asterisk. I could now convert 100% of my stored energy into pure life force and give it back. I wasn't just a trash can anymore. I was a battery. This wasn't just some minor upgrade. It was a god-tier support skill. It allowed me to convert my stored energy into pure life force to heal wounds and restore stamina. It had a 2-hour cooldown, but the potential was massive. I looked over at Yi Qinghan. She was sitting cross-legged a few feet away, her face deathly pale as she struggled to suppress her internal injuries. All right, fierce lady, I thought. Since you gave me that spirit stone snack, I guess I'll be the bigger slime and help you out. I didn't hesitate. I sank my consciousness into the system and targeted her. Yi Qinghan was deep in meditation, trying to stabilize her fractured meridians. It didn't need to be refined like the energy from a spirit stone. It was ready to use. The warmth spread through her body like a pair of gentle hands smoothing out her damaged veins. The burning pain in her chest began to fade. The exhaustion that weighed down her soul evaporated. She could feel her injuries healing at an impossible speed. In her past life, she had used high-tier heavenly pills that weren't even this effective. Her gaze landed on me. I was glowing with a faint, pulsing light, my body expanding and contracting like a rhythmic water pump. I was working overtime to funnel every drop of energy into her. Once the transfer was done, I deflated. I shrank back to my original size, my color turning dull and gray. I felt completely drained. I let out a weak little bounce on the ground, exhausted. Big sister, I gave you everything I had, I thought, panting mentally. You satisfied with that heal? Yi Qinghan didn't say a word. She just stared at me. Her mind was racing. Could an F-grade slime really do this? No, this wasn't a slime. A bold, wild thought took root in her mind. Was I some kind of incredibly rare, undiscovered mutation? The disgust in her eyes died out. It was replaced by intense curiosity. She stood up, walked over, and actually knelt down in front of me. What exactly are you? She whispered. I nearly cried tears of joy. Finally, she was looking at me like I mattered. She finally realized I wasn't just a blob of trash. I'm venom. I wanted to scream. I'm a god-tier symbiote. Let's merge, and we can kill everything in this forest. I tried to send that thought through our mental link, but the connection was still garbage. What reached her brain was just a jumble of static and one clear word. Kill. Yi Qinghan frowned. Kill. I didn't have a single ounce of attack power. She shook her head, dismissing the idea that I was talking about combat. I could eat spirit stones with zero waste. That was perfect energy efficiency. And now, I could heal and restore her status. I wasn't a failure. I was a mobile support base. Now, she had one wrapped up in a single black blob. Her path as a physical cultivator required a massive amount of resources and caused constant damage to her body. She had been worried about permanent scars on her meridians, but with me, those worries were gone. Hey, don't look at me like that. A tiny, almost invisible smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Oh, so we're happy now? I seized the moment. Her face changed instantly. The warmth vanished, replaced by a flush of red anger and a gaze that could freeze fire. You slimy thing. You want to crawl on my body? In your dreams. Before I could even react, she flicked her finger. Ping! I was sent flying across the cave, tumbling into the dirt. My heart was broken. We were so close. I flew through the air in a graceful arc, slamming into the hard stone wall of the cave for the second time. I slid down slowly, my liquid body feeling like a deflated balloon. Why? Just why? I lay there on the ground, completely stunned. Merging truly makes us stronger. Why didn't she believe me? Yi Qinghan looked at my pathetic, disappointed state and seemed to realize she had overreacted. I was just a low-intelligence slime, after all. What bad intentions could a blob of jelly possibly have? She cleared her throat, trying to hide her embarrassment, and quickly changed the subject. You're too weak, she said, her voice regaining its icy edge. You need to level up fast. Without another look at me, she turned around and started packing her gear. I stayed flat on the floor, watching her cold silhouette. Even in her combat suit, her legs looked long and powerful. Weak? Fine. Call me weak for now. But one day, I'll make you realize that you're the one who can't live without me. When we finally merge, I'll show you exactly what I can do. Heh. The sky began to darken. In the mist zone, visibility dropped to near zero as night approached. The air grew damp and bone-chillingly cold. From the distance, the roars of monsters became more frequent and frantic. Night in the mist was a carnival for beasts. The danger level was 10 times higher than during the day. We have to go back, Yi Qinghan muttered. She finished packing and stuffed me back into her backpack. I had recovered a bit of energy by then, but she only left a tiny crack in the zipper for me to see out of. Stay in there. Don't make a sound, she warned. She shouldered the bag and vanished into the mouth of the cave with the agility of a cat. I stayed quiet, sensing the terrifying pressure of the night air outside. I wasn't an idiot. Now wasn't the time to show off. Using her experience from her past life, she navigated the mist with ease, sensing the breath of powerful monsters and avoiding them before they even knew we were there. Her footsteps were silent. Soon, the massive silhouette of the steel city walls appeared on the horizon. After passing the guard inspection, we were back in Blue City. The noise and lights of the city instantly washed away the gloom of the mist. Yi Qinghan didn't stop. She headed straight for her home in the civilian district. However, as she turned into the familiar, crumbling alleyway leading to her place, she froze. Under a flickering streetlight, several figures blocked the path. At the front was Wang Tong, the arrogant prick who had insulted her at the evaluation center earlier that day. He had swapped his expensive combat gear for casual clothes, but his expression was even more vicious than before. He wasn't alone. He had several burly young men with him, their muscles bulging and their temples pulsing. These weren't students, they were trained fighters. Yo, if it isn't our great genius, Yi Qinghan, Wang Tong said, a cat-meets-mouse grin spreading across his face. Actually brave enough to go outside the walls alone? You've got guts. He scanned her up and down, his eyes lingering on her face, which was slightly dusted from the road. So, how was it? Getting chased by monsters like a dog? Must have been exciting. Yi Qinghan's eyes turned cold instantly. Wang Tong, what do you want? What do I want? Wang Tong laughed as if she'd told a hilarious joke. What could I want? He stepped closer, his smile turning into a snarl. Back at school, there were too many people. I gave you face, but you don't seem to know how to appreciate it. There are no teachers here, no classmates. His cronies closed in, forming a tight circle around us. The atmosphere in the alley turned lethal. Inside the backpack, my body tensed up. Damn it, it's that idiot from earlier. He's looking for trouble. Yi Qinghan clenched her fists. I'll say it once. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Wang Tong laughed harder. Yi Qinghan, do you still not understand the situation? You're a loser who contracted an F-grade spirit. You're a penniless commoner. What right do you have to be arrogant in front of me? His voice was thick with malice and jealousy. I'm laying it out for you right now, he said, his face darkening. Either you come with me and become my woman. I'll guarantee you all the resources you want. Or I break your legs and toss you into the slums. You'll never be a spirit master as long as you live. Pick one. The thugs behind him let out a chorus of nasty laughs. I could feel Yi Qinghan's chest heaving with rage. In 2 lifetimes, she had never suffered such an insult. Wang Tong, she hissed. You're looking for death. Looking for death? Ha ha. Wang Tong pointed at her backpack. With what? That pile of mud in your bag. A loser paired with a loser spirit. Truly a match made in heaven. Think carefully, Yi Qinghan. Even if I do something to you here, nobody is going to stand up for a failure like you. That was it. I was furious. This was my fierce woman he was talking about. Nobody gets to talk to her like that. And I am not a pile of mud. Before Yi Qinghan could even react, I launched myself through the crack in the backpack like a black cannonball. My target, Wang Ting's punchable face. Thud. The sound was dull and heavy in the quiet alley. I hit him with every ounce of strength I had. But the scene of him clutching a bloody nose didn't happen. A faint shimmer of spiritual energy flickered on the surface of his skin just before impact. It was a protective shield. My full-force attack felt like an egg hitting a rock. I didn't leave a scratch. Instead, the recoil sent me flying backward. Wang Tong clutched his stomach and erupted into a fit of laughter. Ha ha, what was that? Is your slime trying to give me a massage? He pointed at me, laughing so hard tears actually welled up in his eyes. Look at it. This is your spirit? This is your trump card? It can't even break my passive shield. It's even more pathetic than I thought. The thugs joined in, their eyes filled with pure contempt. Boss, why waste words? Just take her. She's asking for it. My entire liquid body was vibrating with rage. I was too weak. Without merging, I couldn't even take down a piece of trash like this. In my independent state, I had zero combat power. It was infuriating. Just then, a pair of black combat boots stepped forward and stopped right in front of me. Yi Qinghan slowly crouched down in front of me. Her face was a mask of cold indifference, her eyes as calm and deep as a bottomless frozen lake. "Are you okay?" she asked. I froze for a second. I could actually hear a trace of genuine concern in her voice. "I'm fine," I sent back through our mental link, trying to regain my dignity. "I'm the Great Lord Slime, remember? It'll take more than a wall to break me." She didn't respond. I wasn't even sure if she understood my bravado or if she just chose to ignore it. "Get back inside," she said, pointing toward the backpack. I didn't argue. I hopped back into the bag immediately. As I settled in, Yi Qinghan stood up slowly and turned her gaze toward Wang Teng. In that moment, the temperature in the alley felt like it dropped 10 degrees. Wang Teng's obnoxious laughter cut off instantly. He stared at her, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine fear in his eyes. She looked the same as always, but the aura radiating from her was completely different. "Wang Teng," she said. Her voice was flat, devoid of any emotion. "My spirit might be a failure in your eyes, but only I get to call him that. Only I get to bully him. You? What right do you have to even speak his name?" Before the words had even finished hanging in the air, she moved. She simply slammed her right foot into the ground. Using that explosive counterforce, she launched herself forward like an arrow released from a bow. She moved so fast she left a blur in the air. This was pure, raw physical potential, honed by a killing intent forged on the edge of life and death. She didn't go for his B-grade flame sparrow. She went straight for Wang Teng. Capture the leader to collapse the army. A violent, predatory pressure swept forward, mixed with the faint, cold scent of her perfume. Too fast. That was the only thought his brain had time to process. She didn't move like a newly awakened spirit master. She didn't move like a helpless girl. "Protect, boss. Stop her." Wang Teng's lackeys were experienced thugs. Their reactions were quick. Two of them stepped forward, crossing their arms to create a human wall, trying to blunt her charge with their own bodies. They heavily underestimated the horror of the divine demon body. She didn't slow down. Just as she was about to collide with them, she dipped her shoulder slightly. Asterisk thud. These were big men, both easily over 180 pounds, but they were hit like they'd been charged by a runaway bull. They were sent flying backward with a scream, slamming into the alley walls and coughing up blood. They were out of the fight instantly. "What?" Wang Teng's face finally went pale. The contempt was gone. It flapped its wings and spat a fireball the size of a human head. The heat wave surged forward, aiming right for Yi Qinghan's face. A B-grade attack like that could melt steel. "Qinghan, look out!" I yelled from inside the backpack. At the very last microsecond, she tilted her body half a step to the left. It was a movement of impossible precision. The flames brushed past her cheek, scorching a few strands of her hair. The air filled with the smell of burnt protein. But she didn't stop. Using that dodge to maintain her momentum, she closed the gap. She was less than a meter away from him now. He tried to retreat, but his legs felt like they were made of lead. He was paralyzed, pinned down by the sheer weight of her killing intent. It was a slender, beautiful hand with delicate knuckles. It looked like it couldn't hurt a fly. Crack. The sound was heavier and more sickening than any of the hits before it. Wang Teng's body folded like a boiled shrimp. The next second, the hidden force exploded. He was hit with the power of a high-speed truck. Boom. He flew 10 meters, crashing into the brick wall at the end of the alley with enough force to crack the masonry. He slid down the wall like a pile of wet trash. He finally managed to retch, but it wasn't food that came up. It was a mouthful of blood mixed with bile. The alley fell into a deathly silence. The remaining lackeys stared at Wang Teng, who was twitching on the ground like a dying dog. She stood in the center of the alley, slowly pulling back her fist. She wasn't even out of breath. Their entire worldview was shattering. A first-stage spirit master with a B-grade spirit, a direct descendant of the powerful Wang family, had been taken out with a single punch. He hadn't even had the chance to fight back. So this is the power of a body cultivator. I muttered from the bag, my jaw practically on the floor. Holy crap, that punch was magnificent. I knew she was cold, but I didn't know she was this much of a beast. The only sound left was Wang Teng's weak groaning. His B-grade flame sparrow circled above, letting out a mournful cry, but it didn't dare attack again. Animal instinct is sharper than a human's. It could feel an aura coming off Yi Qinghan that made its very soul tremble. Yi Qinghan stood still, slowly stretching her fingers. This was the first real test of the divine demon body since she'd reached the entry level. The results were better than she'd hoped. Pure physical strength combined with a lifetime of combat experience was a total slaughter against a greenhouse flower like Wang Tong, who had a high rank but zero real-world survival skills. It wasn't a fight. It was a total collapse. Yi Qinghan gave one last cold look at Wang Tong, who was still unconscious on the ground, and then at his terrified lackeys. She didn't say a word. To her, these people weren't even worth the breath it would take to insult them. She turned around and walked deeper into the alley toward our home. Her expression never flickered. It was as if she had just swatted a buzzing fly. Only after her figure disappeared around the corner did Wang Teng's followers snap out of it. They scrambled around in a panic, screaming for an ambulance and cursing. "Is that woman a monster?" one of them yelled. The alley was a mess of shouting and chaos, but we were already long gone. Back in our tiny apartment, which was barely 30 square meters, Yi Qinghan dropped her bag on the table and unzipped it. I popped out immediately, bouncing around her. "Mean woman, are you okay? That punch was amazing, but did you get hurt?" "Let me see." Seeing my frantic worrying, the violent aura she had carried from the battle seemed to melt away. She looked at me seriously. I was fine, of course. I'd been rattled by her energy shield earlier, but with my unique slime body, that kind of impact felt like a light massage. Seeing that I wasn't damaged, she finally let out a small sigh of relief. She sat on the edge of the bed and started analyzing the fight. "I was too impulsive," she muttered to herself. Knocking Wang Ting out felt great, but it meant a total war with the Wang family. They weren't the type to let things go. Trouble was going to come knocking soon. Still, her eyes turned firm again. She didn't regret it. If she had to do it again, she'd throw that same punch. She could handle people doubting her or mocking her, but she wouldn't stand for anyone bullying her spirit, even if she used to think I was useless. I stayed on the table, watching her quietly. I could feel the restlessness in her heart. I felt a pang of frustration too. I was too weak. Without merging, I couldn't even beat a common thug. I needed to level up. I made a silent vow that one day, even without merging, I would be as strong as a god. I pulled up my system panel. My stats stared back at me. Level 1, 60 devour points. It wasn't enough. I needed more points. I needed to eat stronger things. My resolve hardened. "Mean woman, let's go outside the city tomorrow. Let's kill stronger beasts." She looked down at the black slime radiating fighting spirit on her table. "Fine," she whispered. The next 7 days were a blur of routine and madness. During the day, she was the ultimate hunter. We hunted everything: cunning blood-spotted hounds, massive frenzied boars, and lightning-fast blade mantises. Those system pings were my favorite sounds in the world. My points were skyrocketing.